Alright, so next I'm going to be reacting to, got a video from Benny Johnson here. It's from one day ago. So, shock video proves Katy Perry's space flight was fake. How does the door open on a spaceship? So, I do like Mr. Benny, and so we're going to give a little react to this today. I skipped the intro portion there, as you can see. So, it's just like, it's got some meme intro, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to get to this part of it.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. There's an old Shakespearean line that goes like this: the woman doth protest too much. Gayle King is somebody who allegedly went to space this week. She's an astronaut. No, she's not. We're going to cover that in just a second. But Gayle King was on TV right after her little space trip.
First of all, the democratization, that word could be used very loosely or whatever here, or whatever, because democratization probably implies that more people or anybody or most people could do it, whereas Blue Origin, I think it costs a lot of money to do that. Like I think it would be very expensive for somebody to go on that flight or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, but the idea of just like random people, celebrities or whatever, with what I assume is with minimal or no training, I could be wrong, but like, do they train these people before they send them up, or do they just send them up? I don't know what's involved with this process, correct me if I'm wrong, but just kind of the point that we're at now, we're like just kind of more or less anybody with money, I assume money would be needed to be able to be a part of it, but just like anybody with money could go and do this, I assume. Would that pique the interest, or maybe, like, would that pique the interest of, like, 2000s 5-year-old who is like, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up? If this kind of thing existed when they were 5 in the 2000s, would they be like ecstatic and happy about this, or would they be bummed out because it would seem out of reach because you need a lot of money? But then as you get older, maybe you're like, well, it just increases the various ways in which I could go to space, so maybe it's a plus to have more ways to go to space. But you would, I assume, need a lot of money to go on this Blue Origin thing, if that's how it works, I assume. And so, yeah, like, does this make space travel or astronaut stuff look better or worse? Anyway.
And she decided to rip into people that said she didn't actually go to space. It seems a little on edge for her.
What do you think when people say, oh, it's frivolous? Number one, they call it a ride, which I find very irritating because they never say men went for a ride. What do
I'm going to let Benny react.
I have to stop. Men flew your dick rocket. You flew up into space in a little dick rocket. You weren't piloting anything.
So it's worth noting, like, so it's funny how they often resort to just like these like feminist talking points or whatever, but so let's call it going for a ride. If it's a guy or a girl, a man or a woman, it's like, if you are not doing anything to assist in the process of going up there into space, then isn't it just a ride? Like when you go on a roller coaster and you're just there, you're not doing anything to propel it or drive it. Like, isn't it kind of a similar thing? This is just way more expensive.
You weren't providing any service to the actual craft itself. You were a you're tourists. It's like
Space
me
tourists.
booking a commercial flight and saying I flew the plane. You didn't. Men flew the remotely operated the rocket and designed it. And
does it feel unnerving that it's remotely piloted? It's like, yeah, we're gonna go on this rocket, but like the pilot's not in it. It's like, does that give you like more ease? Because like if the pilot's in the thing as well, you think, okay, he definitely wants to survive. So if he is in here, like with us, committed to this journey as well, then that would increase our chances of survival, even maybe just a little bit more than if he was not in the rocket. Not that like if you're going to remote control it that you're going to be purposely reckless with people's lives who are in it, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't the vibe feel like slightly more risky when like the pilot doesn't have physical stake in the game because he's not actually there with you? Anyway.
And created it. So yes, it was a ride for you.
do you say to people who think that this was frivolous or just a ride? I think the message that it sends is very, very powerful. And the people that say that, by the way, weren't there.
You're so powerful. That's right. You're exactly right. The only people that were there were Hollywood celebrities like the Kardashians and Katy Perry. If you're going to sit here and demand to be taken seriously, we demand to be taken seriously, well, maybe don't do this after your craft lands back on the Earth, which, if the official story is to be believed, we'll get to that in just a second, was only in space.
And also, I saw on Twitter, I think, recently about how, like, no re-entry burns on the capsule. So it's like, did they go all the way up where to the point of coming back would cause re-entry burns? Because if you don't go further, or if you don't go far enough into space to the point where you would need, or to the point where it would cause re-entry burns, then did you actually go to space? It's like, that Red Bull jump, space jump or whatever. It's like they weren't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that they were technically in space. They were like, I can't remember what the different levels of space are called, like stratosphere. Like, is that the point where, like, you haven't completely exited the atmosphere, but, like, you're up there? Is that how that works? Anyway, I could be wrong, but it's like, are they at that height where it's not quite high enough that you would get re-entry burns? So then did you really go to space? Well, and then you could take that in other directions, too.
For 3 minutes.
Wait, they were only...
For 3 minutes.
Only for 3 minutes. And what is this, like, the holding the little daisy thing up like that? Like, it might have been, like, quaint or whatever when she was holding it in space, but, like, what's up with this right there? Like, does this mean something?
Oh, wow. What a valiant explorer.
Katy!
She picked the flower, and then she kissed the earth.
It was probably dusty, too. Like,
Hey. She kissed the earth, and she liked it. Now, let me ask a question.
I see what you did there, Mr. Benny. I see what you did there.
Here's
deploy from the crew
footage
capsule. Those are like the guide parachutes. There we go, the drone
of them.
parachutes. Just free falling right there until those
footage of
drones-
them allegedly screaming as this craft returns.
What's ground
to
impact look like?
I'm going to tell you what sparks a lot of conspiracy theories. Number one, this doesn't look like a pleasant landing. The median age of these women, ooh, this is going to get me in trouble, is like 60. And this seems like a really, this seems like a top, that seems
Dude.
like...
So, to be fair, it's probably a really, like, dusty area. So, like, this might look like even more impact than it is because of the amount of dust that's flying up. Like, if they landed in a grass field, would it look as intense? But still, like, does that look comfortable? And, like, what's the seats like? Are they on air seats or spring seats? Like, what's the impact like? You know what I mean?
Seems like a tough landing.
Oof.
Seems like some of these ladies that are definitely past their prime might not be able to crawl out of their little folding chairs that they're sitting in too easily from that. But they all did. But more importantly, I want to bring attention to the actual craft itself.
Before Benny gets into this, you know how everybody makes the memes about it looking like a penis? So, yeah, this could be like the whole, you can make jokes about, like, is Jeff Bezos, like, trying to, like, literally make it a wiener measuring contest or a, is it supposed to be immature? Like, is the shape and design intentional because it is, like, this immature high school thing? Like, is this, like, the really expensive and technologically advanced version of doodling wieners on the walls of the school bathroom or whatever? Like, is that kind of what this is? But I'm going to go conspiratorial for a second. I've heard it said that, like, in ancient Egypt, the, whatever those little towers are, those pointy towers, I can't remember what they're called, but if you just look up Egyptian pointy towers or whatever, you might find the name. Aren't those supposed to actually be imitations of a phallus, which I believe is, like, a more technical term for a wiener? And, isn't it supposed to be, like, is it intended as a structure that is, like, blasphemous towards God or something like that, or antagonistic towards God? So, like, when they design these rockets, is this, like, a modern-day version of them trying to be blasphemous or antagonistic towards God? I'm just kind of throwing out a little theory here, but anyway.
Like, why exactly does the little dickhead that they're in have absolutely no signs of re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere? This is something that the internet is asking. You see there, clean as a whistle, that pod. And this is what a pod looks like when it's, well, returned from.
So I have my gripes about that whole space situation as well when it comes to this specific craft and pod and everything. So part of my gripe is that with all of the advanced technology, satellite, internet, all this stuff that we have like Starlink, why does the video feed still look so bad? Like, can we get something that looks like good 1080p HD at least? Like, we are 2025, and doesn't it still kind of look a little bit like 2005? Minus the fact that in 2005 the aspect ratio might be a 4:3 rather than a 16:9. But anyway, like, why does it still have to look like this? Why does it have to still look like this? Like, and this is the drone on the ground. We're not even talking about, like, space footage or whatever. But even then, and also the video of where it was docking, this one guy I saw on Twitter, there was a post about like how fast it was moving, like the speed of the Earth rotating. So unless it was like a hyperlapse or a time lapse of it docking over the course of however many hours, unless you explain it that way, it looks a bit sus. And also, like, just like when I was looking at it, at the video of it, it just looked like a render, like a render, like computer render, CGI render. Like, it just looked like that. It might not have been, but it just kind of looked like that with the way that the footage looked. And then also just like I was looking at like how the water was in, because like in game dev and stuff like that, when you have like a rendered scene like an Unreal Engine, like when you look at how water interacts with objects that are in it, unless like you have like advanced physics or fluid simulations, or I assume it would be called fluid simulations, but like or effects or whatever, particles that happen when water interacts an object, it kind of just looks like two planes, even though the water's kind of a wavy plane with the shader and stuff. But like, say you have the object, here's the water. It, like, if you don't have any advanced things that make the water interact with objects in them in a fancy way, it'll kind of just look like this. Like the object, like the plane of water, which might be a little bit wavy, it'll just kind of stay like more like stagnant, and just you'll see like the water level around the side of it just kind of like, it'll interact with it, but it'll just kind of rise and fall like it's sinking into like, more of a flat object, and not much necessarily happening that looks as realistic with interactions. Whereas in real life, when you have water kind of interacting with something, it'll kind of maybe splash up against the side of it or whatever. But depending on how calm the water is and what the shape of the object is, it might literally look like it's rising and sinking on a flat plane kind of thing. But you know how, like, there's waves and stuff and everything, and the shape of the craft, like, is it reasonable to say that you might see some kind of water splashing, brushing interaction, whatever, stuff like that? And that might have been happening in the video. Might be a little bit hard to diagnose because of the quality of the video. But I just kind of was like I said to one of my family members at the time, I was like, are we being punked? But anyway, that's a whole different thing. But regardless, anyway, moving on.
From space, right here. Here's the Dragon X capsule.
Kudos anyway to having re-entry burns. Anyway.
Here's a good example. This, the reason why there's so many
right
photos
word
of
to
it
use,
is because they
kudos?
saved a bunch of astronauts who were stuck in space.
Props, whatever.
You see, the thing is
word
burnt
is proper.
to hell. Then maybe this is beyond. Like, maybe they returned from higher orbit, right? I mean, they certainly
Like I was
did
saying, something like that.
not go that high into the sky. You can see that they return from like space into the Earth's atmosphere, chars like a marshmallow, like a burnt marshmallow, these spacecrafts.
Good
Why does it
analogy.
look so clean exactly? Why? I don't know. There's some other questions that are leading people to ask questions about all this. Number one, Gail King, you're not an astronaut. According to the FAA, rules say that the Blue Origin crew does not qualify as astronauts because they didn't do
Good.
anything.
Good.
The ship was entirely controlled.
I'm kind of glad that's the classification or the clarification given, because the syndrome quote may just continue to be more and more true to more and more things, where it's like, if everybody's an astronaut, no one will be, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like the more of everyone can be everything that we get, maybe the less significance things will have, because everybody can just be it. And it's like, what does it mean to be that? Whatever. Anyway.
From the ground. According to the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, all of the women are not astronauts at all. Their 3-minute joyride on the Dick Rocket did not allow them to become astronauts because, according to the rules, you have to actually do something other than take selfies. Which is all that they did. And they were really happy about it. This is what was accomplished.
2, 3, take us back!
High-paying jobs, good luck.
This is what was accomplished on their mission to space. Okay?
Don't you like it how they always have to front load it with conspiracy theorists claim, you know? Like with that one headline there.
Space. All right. So they brought like flowers and stuff. Took a lot of photos of themselves. Anyway, everyone's saying like this is garbage. One, you're not astronauts.
So real quick, I'm going to talk about how you could fake it, if you wanted to. Like, because I cannot say, obviously, without a doubt if it was faked or not, but there's some things that seem sus about this. But, all right, I'm going to go full screen for a second. So, if you wanted to fake it, here's how you could fake it. Blue Origin stuff, and actually have it look like this and no re-entry burns or whatever. So, one of the ways that as I'm kind of trying to put the pieces together or think about this, is if you... Because you ever seen those videos where people would go up in a plane, and they would fly the plane in such a way that when the plane would do a certain maneuver, it would cause like a zero gravity effect inside the plane, and so you'd have like this kind of vacant plane that I don't know if it had much seating or anything in it. It was kind of more so empty, but like the people inside the capsule of the plane, not where the pilot was, but in the passenger area, could kind of just float and move around and stuff like that. I would assume that's a result of when you go up and then come down fairly fast to the point at which everything just kind of starts floating in there because there's so much downforce or whatever. Now, I'm not an expert on how they do these maneuvers, and I don't even know if that's the maneuver that is done. That's just my assumption. But anyway, let's Hollywood fake this Blue Origin thing. Put that capsule inside a giant cargo military plane or whatever, and do the same maneuvers in that plane, if you can. But you have like the Blue Origin capsule inside that on like a rail system or something like that. And what you would do is you could even within there have like a bunch of green screens, like the whole inside of that cargo plane painted green. So then you could put in the imagery of space in post or in like live. I don't know if this is recorded live or if it's like uploaded after the fact, like however it's done. Anyway, you could do however workflow you do that, and then you would basically, so like you'd have the green screen done in the plane, or maybe LED screens, whatever you do, and have your lighting and stuff like that in the plane set up proper ways so that it doesn't look obvious out the windows or whatever. And then so then you do your maneuvers. Then like they have the floating effect where it looks like they're floating around and stuff like that. And then you cut the footage once you start to adjust the maneuver again and gravity starts to return. And then when you want to dump the capsule for re-entry, just have it on that rail on the cargo plane and shift it to the back and out the back of the plane. So then the cargo capsule, you simulated gravity, you did your fake space ride, whatever, and then you dump it out the back, and then it starts falling. And then at that point, because you could pick like the height that it drops from, so you dump it out the back of the plane, it starts falling, you make sure the rail system or whatever is set up so that it dumps it right way up, or however that works. And then at that point, you then start filming the re-entry once the plane's out of the camera view. You start filming the capsule coming down, makes it look like it's just doing its re-entry thing. You would have to do it in such a way where the capsule at the point that it was dropped, you'd have to do something, whether it's like launch it out at somewhat of a necessary speed. I don't know if you could do this, but like where you're trying to make it look like it's not falling like this, but instead falling down. So it might depend on your cloud coverage. Like there's a lot of things that would go into making it look legit. Maybe you would have another parachute that would come out the side that would basically slow down its sideways trajectory to try to make it fall more straight down, because that's one of the key things if you're going to dump it out of a plane that you'd have to do. Or you could even argue that, like, are they two different capsules? Like you have the capsule that's maybe just in the cargo jet doing the fake CGI floating stuff, and then you have an unmanned capsule that gets dumped from elsewhere, or re-enters from elsewhere, and then you film that separately, and then you have like the ground capsule, which is another separate one, and then you just kind of edit all this footage together, maybe make it look like it's live or whatever, because like I don't even know like where they did this or where they landed, if other people were there watching the whole thing go down. Like I don't know enough about the ins and outs of this, but like here's that's my kind of rough theory on maybe a way that you could fake it if you wanted to, and these people probably have enough money and expertise to do something along those lines if they wanted to.
2, did this even happen? But you're definitely not astronauts, okay? That's something that we can prove. Let's talk about like the thing that we can definitely prove. The capsule was controlled from the ground, flies autonomously from launch until landing. This means the members can't have performed any actions essential to public safety. Too bad. Nothing contributed to human space flight safety. Therefore, you are not an astronaut. You are literally just taking up space. Okay. But then we get into the real nuts and bolts here. What's going on in this video?
Yeah, this is the one that causes the sus.
Very curious here. So here we have a video.
Yep, that door. Look at that door there.
The capsule door opening from the inside. What's that now? So the dingbats, ding-dongs, bimbos, journalists, feminists, actresses, and pop stars who are trapped inside of this little dickhead capsule can open the door from the inside, a door that opens inward. That doesn't seem like a really wise safety protocol. Like, so could they have just opened it up in space? So what you're telling me here is they just had a doorknob and they can just swing it open in space? Seems like a very bad safety procedure. That wouldn't have ended well.
Another thing is, like, let's say that was actually, say that what he's saying is true in the sense that, like, let's pretend that you actually could open it from the inside. Whether or not that's ever a thing that's ever done ever. But regardless, it's like, think about it when it comes to, if space is a vacuum, would you actually even be able to open a door inward in a capsule in space due to like suction and stuff? Because you know, like when something, like when an airlock or whatever in sci-fi, when it blows out, it's always like an outward force, like all the air gets sucked out into the vacuum. So would that door even be able to open inwards because there's all that suction of the vacuum of space keeping that door closed? So would that even be a thing that could, from a physics standpoint, even work? Because think about it, it's like, would the vacuum of space be like the reversal of being submerged underwater? The reversal in the sense of, like, if you try to have a door that opens inward underwater, the water would just blow the door open inwards into the capsule because all the pressure of the water outside being, in most cases, I would assume, greater than the pressure inside. So the water would just kind of push the door open as soon as the latch was open, and then the door would just, fly open, water would flood inwards. Is the vacuum of space the opposite of that? Anyway. For everyone. Maybe it would have ended well for us here on Earth. But then something remarkable happens in this video. The minder, whatever little androgynous, lady here next to Jeff Bezos, runs up and says, "Don't open the door! Don't open the door! Stop it! Stop it! Watch."
And I'm happy to tell you that I have
And it's kind of interesting because it's like that part was probably live streamed, because why wouldn't you just cut that out otherwise? Even if it is live streamed, it's almost kind of funny that they didn't just try to like cut the feed, say, oh, technical difficulties. Like, they just kind of let it run. Kind of interesting. So maybe the people in the stream tower, the stream behind the scenes, whatever, didn't consider that or didn't do that. Maybe they didn't think they could. I don't know.
Experienced zero.
But it's to our benefit that it didn't get cut, because maybe now we know the truth.
Hiccups. This was literally plug and play within seconds.
Don't open it. Don't open it. Oh. So then Jeff Bezos goes and gets some fake tool. So they literally open the door. They get told not to open the door. Jeff Bezos gets some like fake prop and then opens it up.
So is that... Wait, did he open it with a crowbar?
And then opens it up.
Okay, no, I think it might be like a thing like where you put it on and then turn, but like for a second it looked like a crowbar. It's like, what?
What? Now
Fair
maybe
response.
okay, so like the most generous observance of all this is that maybe they just wanted to give Jeff Bezos, like, because he paid billions of dollars to like create this company. Maybe they just wanted to give him his like little on-camera moment, you know? But the more nefarious opinion of all of this is that this isn't how you design a spacecraft. Typical spacecraft have doors that open outwards and require a team of technicians working from the outside to unlock them, especially after a trip to space. It doesn't look like a pressurized hatch to me, more like a flimsy door. Another commented, pretty sure pressurized doors don't open inwards. The capsule looks like inflatable tent. And the only footage they showed of this was the weightlessness part, which you can achieve in a plane.
Like I was talking about.
For now 100 years, you've been able to be weightless in a plane, right? This is the advent of flight. You can descend at a quick pace, no matter how high you are, and you'll be weightless for a time.
There you go.
There's a flight that's pretty famous that does this. It's like a military aircraft. It goes really high up, and then it comes down, and that the end of that parabola, you're able to be weightless, right?
That was
you're
parabola.
and then you don't feel gravity acting upon you because the plane is falling faster than gravity. Is that what happened here? Did they film them in something other than like out in outer space? Because you can see their hair and you can see their
So you already talked about how you could possibly fake it.
hair and stuff. You can see them behaving in a weightless. Clearly they're in some type of environment where they are weightless. Here, it'd take a lot of Hollywood production to be able to pull this off.
I don't actually think that you could pull it off any other way than by doing the weightlessness in a plane thing, because like I would say it's fairly obvious that they wouldn't be underwater, because you could see the hair looks different underwater, right? So if you can look at like kind of the parts where the follicles get like kind of frizzy or separated or whatever like that, whatever you want to say, so it's not underwater, and you're probably not going to have like a curl like this or whatever underwater. So not underwater, and also they'd have to hold their breath and it would be uncomfortable, or like it would just you would probably just be able to tell if it was underwater and the amount of the feet that they would have to go through to make it look like this underwater, like, you know what I mean? And doing it with fans, I don't think you could do it with fans, because you would have to have a steady air pressure for everybody that just made it look just enough pressure to make the hair float and not wave or wobble, which I don't know if that's possible at all. Like, it would have to be so fine-tuned that I think it might be impossible, and I don't even know if it would work like that. And different hair might have different weights at different spots, and you know what I mean? I don't think there's a way that you could do it other than in the plane, other than actually going to space or stratosphere or whatever.
This is not a water tank, right?
Me and Benny,
So-
similar wavelength.
What exactly is going on here? But sure as hell is making the entire internet say, nope, this is all fake. Who else?
And what do you do at a point in time where nobody believes anything anymore, at least very little? Like, if this was done in 2005, so again, like, social media helps with like trying to really pick things apart and discern like what's the truth, and try to expose lies and things like that. Like, social media has been a big help at trying to get the word out about things, for better or worse, maybe in some cases, right? Depending on what the topic is and whether the people talking about it are telling the truth or not, right? Anyway, but when it comes to stuff like this, like, it's like, if this was done in 2005, would people have just kind of believed it and been like, oh, that's pretty cool, and then moved on? But nowadays, it's like, given so much that has happened and how culture and society and everything, technology has changed, it's like, does anyone believe anything like this anymore? Some people probably do. I don't know what the percentage breakdown would be, but
Else thinks that the Blue Origin flight was Hollywood fake. You can tell it's fake produced soundstage. Lighting and shadows are all wrong. Show me the actual interior cameras of the all-female crew. I don't believe that they are actually in there. Even then, Hollywood production capacity still fake them into the interior pretty sure that the Blue Origin launch is fake. It doesn't even look real. The real question is, why are we going through all the trouble? Is it a distraction from something? Why does Blue Origin liftoffs look fake? Like totally AI. Can we all agree that the Blue Origin capsule looks completely fake? Absolutely 100% fake. Blue Origin, what a bunch of losers. There is definitive...
Also, when did all these trucks show up? So I assume they probably drove up after impact, like the capsule impacted.
proof that the Blue Origin mission was fake.
Like, what's the time difference between the landing and all these trucks pulling up?
Faked.
And was it one continuous feed? Like, I didn't watch this live, so it's like, was it one continuous feed, or was it like a highlight reel that was uploaded after the fact? Because, like, what level of editing could be done? Depending on how it was done, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely... There it is. This is the door opening, the hatch door opening, right? I don't know, man. Seems like a pretty massive liability. You know, and what happens to this pod? Like, what happens to this thing if it... What happens if it, like, something goes wrong? You have a crew that...
But if they did actually sell an inflatable version of this capsule, it would probably sell. Like, in terms of people would probably buy it. Part of what would make me not want to buy it is the Wiener Association.
They can't operate anything or fly anything. They're just going to be stuck there. There goes the door. No, don't open it just yet. Seems like you're going to run up against like some real physics here, some real problems in all of this. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to Gail King, who's so upset about everybody calling her out for being a fraud. Sorry, not sorry.
And like, how do people react to this stuff? Like, how much sympathy do normal people that are struggling to like make ends meet care about if a celebrity feels a certain kind of way about people not believing that she went to space or whatever? Like, you know what I mean? Anyway.
I don't know, man. Like, I've been blackpilled. This has completely turned me into a skeptic on everything. And somebody's gonna have to explain that door. I think that's pretty damning. I think that's pretty damning evidence. How you do it? Could Katy Perry have just like swung the door open in space? That's what you're telling me? You're telling me that if you just hit the wrong doorknob, that the whole pod is gonna go straight out into black, dark, deep space? Okay. It's a bold strategy. Maybe that was the goal for Jeff Bezos. You ever heard any of these women keep doing interviews? Maybe Jeff Bezos was trying to do Earth a service. But instead, we got our Amazon package returned. Too bad.
Well, I wouldn't go that direction that he went there with, you know, kind of like, I don't know that he was wishing death upon any of these people, but I wouldn't even make that joke and imply that in that kind of way. I ain't about that.
It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See you.
Mr. Benny. Okay. So what do you think of that? It is sus. It is suspicious. This might be just kind of further representative of how little people how little a lot of people believe anything anymore that like mainstream stuff does, you know, like how many people on average, other than like boomers and people that just watch like, you know, like if you're just watching mainstream media, maybe you believe that it happened, but if you're like kind of in the boomer category and maybe you don't necessarily know a whole lot about how things can be faked and stuff like that, then maybe it would be understandable that you might believe that this happened. But like if you're like kind of like a little bit in the know on these things and stuff like that, it's like, how many people believe any of this anymore? Or at least immediately kind of respond with a guarded suspicion as opposed to, oh, look at this thing, you know?